Testing, testing. Okay, we are good to go. Right. Okay. So, what are we up to today? What we are going to be up to today? Give me just a moment. Sorry, everyone's still a little bit ill. So, what we are up to today is brief catch up, and from there, I will be just doing a little bit of work here there. Okay. Whew. So, where are we up to? Well, currently we are doing domains. Still on domains. So I can briefly go through some because we've now actually got some written. We have bond domain. The spell lists are in kind of temporary holding pattern of they're roughly what we'll want, but once I've worked out what the actual spells this game are using are, the spell list will probably change. So we have Bond Domain, whose entire purpose is to play with the bond system. Pardon me. So Heroism Sanctuary, Lesser Restoration, Reinforced Form, which is our version of Aid, Beacon Hope, Ascending, Aura Purity, Resilient Sphere, Greater Restoration, Telepathic Bond. Your abilities are you can remove you can make a test, you can use an action, make a test to remove the charm to frighten condition from someone. You have bonuses to empathy rolls with other people and forming bonds with other people. They get a lot of abilities where they get to play with the bond systems, such as Open Heart is basically you can invoke a bond concept for free without requiring a mark of fate once a day, once a short long rest. Then you have advantage on empathy rolls, advantage on diplomacy rolls. You can spend channel focus to take one of the inspired actions without an inspired event. You can get multiple benefits at once when you invoke a bond concept. Get rid of the terror condition. And then, yeah, basically, as long as you are near to the person you have a bond concept with, you both get a bunch of abilities. Mainly the other person gets a bunch of abilities. Hello. Crafting we covered before. Death is... So the spells of a death domain is protection from evil and good, ray of sickness, gentle repose, ray of enfeeblement, revivify, vampiric touch, banishment, blight, anti-life shell, cloud kill. Your abilities are basically with 2 rounds of focus, you can open a portal to the realm of death, specifically the domain of your eternal. And in the realm of death, you can open a portal to the material realm. Spirit Guide is you can, using that other ability where you can open a portal to the realm of the dead, you can see, so for this one, you can see into the ethereal realm and you can see and commune with the dead. No matter what languages they speak, you could just automatically talk to them. If you help a spirit to move on, such as opening a portal and shepherding it through, you gain a spirit point. You can have a number of spirit points at a time equal to your skill bonus. Once it's expended, it is lost. Powerful spirits may also give you spirit points if you perform a favour for them. So, more powerful undead who might want to remain may go, here's a spirit point as a favour for doing this thing for me, but I'm not passing on. And so you get another abilities you can spend spirit points on. So the first one is you can spend a spirit point and it's counted as an action. The reason we want to tie it to actions and reactions is even if it costs you 0 action points, it still gives a time frame where you're allowed to perform it, and it means you can't do it more than once in a turn. So death fueled magic is when you take the cast action, you can spend a spirit point. Oh, sorry, from the necromancy school, you can spend a spirit point to allow it to target a second target who is within 10 meters. So 2 squares of the original target. But you've got to make an attack roll. The target's got to make a trait test. It isn't an automatic hit. And then you have Death Sense, which is 2 action points and a spirit point. You basically get detect evil and good, but only for undead, but it does last for more than a few seconds. Tipping the scales, you can use one of your channel faiths to remove a degree of the wounded condition and stabilize a target within 6 meters of you. You can ignore the restriction of restoration spells not affecting undead, so you can use healing magic to heal an undead creature, and you can spend a spirit point to make your next attack have damage magnification 5. Which, because I don't remember if we've talked about it, so damage magnification 5, what that means is say you cast Eternal Bolt, which does 1d10 radiant or necrotic damage. We'll save for this necrotic damage because it's in keeping. If you're doing 1d10 necrotic damage, you could then use a spirit point to give it damage magnification 5, which would, say you rolled a 2, it would increase the damage dealt by 5 points. I believe the sum goes, you do reduction, then magnification. So if they have a damage reduction, it would occur, and then you would have 5 points on afterwards. So it's basically, you get a bit more reliable damage. You can overcome some low grade damage reductions in theory. And if they don't have a damage reduction, you're basically just getting 5 extra points of damage for helping one spirit pass on. Soul Reaper is you get an inspired event on scope increases by 1, which means for you, if you're pure classing this, it would be you get effectively critical hits on a 19 or a 20. If you reduce the target to 0 HP, you can immediately pass the soul on to your Eternal, at which point you get a spirit point. And when you score a critical hit, you deal maximum damage with your weapon, unarmed strike, or spells damage dice. So specifically, because it specifies the weapon, if you apply a paladin smite to it or something like that, that won't have an effect. It is the basic damage die of your strike, weapon, or spell. And then you also get to apply, you can spend a spirit point to use a reaction, which would let you negate the effect of a critical hit. So it's effectively, you can crit easier. When you crit, you deal even better damage. And if you kill people now, you can get spirit points for it. But the other key thing is you can bugger up someone's critical hit on one of your teammates. Then tap into death is, should you begin an encounter, basically, should initiative be called and you don't have any spirit points, you immediately get 1 spirit point. And the others get buffs. So critical resistance, which was basically you negate a critical hit, you negate a critical hit, now the target's 5 barrier points. Death-fueled magic, which is your necromancy spell, got to split in 2. The spell circle couldn't be higher than half your skill bonus. Now it's up to your skill bonus. And it ignores damage reduction and resistance to necrotic damage. Death Sense is, it's no longer a concentration effect, and tipping the scales, which was the magnification 5, turns it from magnification 5 to you have vulnerability to the attack's damage. You also can spend a spirit point to tap into death, which is the final ability or not, which is if a target is killed in response to a target being killed, you can spend a reaction point and a spirit point, and pick a target, including yourself, to basically heal a number of hit points equal to the challenge rating plus intuition. And then the final thing is longer term deals. So one thing you could do, which is why it's in the sidebar, is you could agree to let a spirit inhabit your body. It doesn't get to control you, it just gets to watch along for the ride. And what that would be is you would get 1 spirit point and it would refresh every long rest. Obviously you can't have more spirit points than you have your skill bonus, so there's still that limit there. So hopefully that one sounds interesting. My hope with that one was tapping into kind of the psychopomp. You're tapping into the psychopomp, you can sense where dead people are, you can make deals with ghosts, pass them on to gain power, and then in doing so you get better at combat. The buffing your crits and weakening other people's crits was kind of like you are the person who sits on the scales and you get to tip it one way or the other, and you obviously want to tip it in favour of you. Destruction Domain. So this one I had little to no idea what I was doing at the time, but I think we've come up with something. Destruction Domain is create, destroy, water and thunder wave for first level, flaming sphere and shatter for 3rd, lightning bolt and plank growth for 5th, aura of life, control water for 7th, flame strike and insect plague for 9th. So to explain this next ability, I have to explain one thing. We've not really touched spells too much, but some spells have keyword tags. This is mainly to interact with the World Speaker and Pact Bound. But in this specific instance, it's for Destruction Domain, you get to treat any spell with the air, earth, fire, and water tag as being part of the Eternal spell list. As I said, you could tell that one's kind of themed. Those tags were themed around the World Speaker, which is our druid. Having spells tied to different elements. But for Destruction, you get to treat them, so whether they're on the Druid or Arcane spell list, they are part of your Eternal spell list, if they have those tags. Your spells do double damage against objects and structures, and your spells, weapon attacks and arm strikes do 1d8 force damage against constructs. But the other half of Destruction is renewal. That's the big theme is the purpose is you destroy something to rebuild it better. So how renewal works is you learn Druidcraft, and if a spell with fire, earth, water tag succeeds in hitting a target after the attack roll or due to a failed trait test to resist it, you can use your reaction to select an allied individual that you can see within 6 meters. The target regains HP equal to half the damage. Of the spell's damage die rolls. And it just occurred to me one thing. I've got to briefly change one little number Because where is it? Because the point of moving to meters was that it was literally that many squares. We're not doing the D&D 5 meters in the square thing. Okay, so basically you cast these spells, you get to heal people. For a reaction, Shield Breaker is if you make an attack roll with a spell against the target, if the attack roll hits, after the spell is resolved, you can expend a use of Channel Faith. The target then makes an agility test against your spell TG. On a fail, it reduces its hit target, or you pick armor, shield, or a weapon held by the creature. If it's shield or an armor, it reduces the hit target by 1. If it's a weapon, it reduces the damage roll by 1. If the trait is failed by 5, it's instead reduced by 3. Half your skill bonus. The important thing is, this cannot destroy an item, but it can make it unusable. So if you were to reduce the hit target bonus of a shield to 0, or a piece of armor to 0, so there are some cases where it's like, so a hit target could be 5 plus your dexterity. If even at the best dexterity and the thing, the value would be 0. It's unusable, basically, but it isn't destroyed. And the reason we have done that is because we don't want the very classic thing of, oh, thing is dead. Okay, cool. My armor's broken. This is broken. There's no coming back from this. How we're instead approaching it is damage, and we'll probably, now I've come up with this system, this is probably how, I don't know if rust monsters are in the SRD, but say a rust monster's in the SRD, and we transfer the rust monster across, this is how we would probably do it. It doesn't destroy the item, it just damages it to the point of unusable, at which point those characters who have invested in learning how to craft could repair the damage with sufficient time and material. Of course, this ability has no effect on natural armor or natural weapons, but basically it's an ooze or a rust monster, or nothing is going to destroy your items. What they are going to do is make them unusable and a bit of a burden to carry around. So the choice is yours whether or not you would keep it. Overcoming barriers is basically your spells add intuition to the damage roll if they don't already. If they deal damage, you reduce their damage reduction by 5. If they are resistant, then there's nothing you do there. But if it's an earth, fire, water spell, you do get to ignore damage reduction and resistances. And the Master of Destruction is if an individual is immune to your Eternal's chosen damage type, it's instead treated as resistance, and the resistance cannot be ignored. And then when you cast a spell dealing damage of your Eternal's chosen damage type, you can select a number of damage dice dealt by the spell up to or equal to half your skill bonus. Instead of rolling, they deal the highest damage. So yeah, that's destruction. Hopefully that sounds interesting as like a subclass that is intended to be focused on breaking things. Fate is identify heroism, locate objects, see invisibility, beacon of hope, clairvoyance, death ward, divination, commune, and scrying. The key thing with the Fate domain is I didn't want it to be the divination wizard. So this is less about advantage, disadvantage, making people re-roll. This is about prophecy, and seeing into the future. So Fate Seer is your first ability. It increases your inspired event scope by 1 and increases the marks of fate you can have at once by 1. You always have the augury spell prepared, and divination spells reduce the percent chance of a false reading by 25%. And then Oracle Sight is you can spend a 15-minute ritual to get a vision of the future, but it's very much an oracle's vision. It's images and sounds around an object or entity, not something clear-cut. So the best pop culture reference I could give is it's like Mass Effect 1's the Prothean Beacon at the beginning of the game. It's a bunch of images and a bunch of sounds, and you can get something out of it, but you can't tell exactly what to begin with. Manipulator of Fate. You get a fate point, which you recover at the end of a long rest. Importantly, fate points are also part of one feature for the Fate Touch template. So there is a thing of, if you've got the Fate Touch template and you take the Fate Domain, you get an interplay of mechanics in that you can use fate points for both uses. And you get Danger Sense, which you can spend your fate point on. It also costs your reaction. It's when you're asked to roll for initiative. If you would be surprised, you ignore it. If you did not get the surprise condition, you instead have advantage on initiative. Skilled Seer is when you cast a spell from the Divination School, you can heal someone around you. And you can spend a fate point as part of an activity during a short or long rest to reduce a moderate scar concept to a mild scar concept. It's effectively you kind of retroactively playing with fate to aid your allies and heal them up a little. And then Master of Fate is you get the Fate Touch template and one template feature. If you've already got it, you get 2. And you get now 2 fate points, which you can spend on different actions. You can choose to spend 2 fate points to gain 1 mark of fate, as long as it doesn't bring you over the maximum, which is quite a lot of flexibility. Half is one we are writing up. I've got some ideas what I want to do for it. Half domain is all about playing with the downtime, short rest and long rest. So it's spells we so far have set out. So we've got Alarm and Good Breed for first level, Passive Outtrace and Rope Trick for 3rd, Beacon of Hope and Tiny Hut for 5th, Hallucinatory Terrain and Private Sanctum for 7th, Pass Wall and Teleportation Circle for 9th. And the current plan is to have things around making it that your campfire is harder to spot, bonuses to cooking meals during a short rest, reducing the time taken for activities during downtime, reducing the amount of time the party needs to spend for a short rest to kick in. Yeah, teleporting back to the campfire. It isn't 100% sorted yet. I still need to come up with the top 2 abilities, but those are some ideas I've currently got. We have Knowledge Domain. So Knowledge Domain has 1st level Identify Quick Read, 3rd level Detect Thoughts Flash Learning, 5th level Non-Detection Speak with Dead, 7th level Arcane Eye Divination, 9th level Legend Lore Scrying. Divine Knowledge is basically when you finish a long rest, you can pick a combination of 2 tools, skills, or languages to be trained in, and while you're trained in their use, you get to use intuition instead of the normal trait. You also get to pick 2 skills you have learnt. You are a master in those skills. And you get training in 1 tool and 1 language of your choice. Boon of knowledge is you can perform the study action for an action point, and if you perform different knowledge skills, you get certain benefits. So cosmology, nature, and occultism all have the same thing of, if you have a successful test and it has a tiered degree of success, you increase the degree by one. So say there was a trait test and it went, if you get a 15, it's a success, you get this much information. 20, you get this. 25, you get this. You would up the degree, the amount of information you got by one. General knowledge is whether you pass or fail, you always get 2 pieces of information you've heard on the topic. It can be a rumour or a less heard of idea. It may not be accurate. Only the game guide gets to know how true that bit of information is, and the result can be altered by the result of your roll. But the key thing is, it's just a piece of knowledge that you have heard. How correct it is a different matter. You may have heard the moon is made of cheese. It isn't false, but you have heard it. Investigation is, no matter whether you pass or fail, you always find a clue. But importantly, you might not know what that clue means or what it has to do with the situation. It may be something that will make sense later on. Linguistics is, on a successful test, you get to make study progress, learning that language effectively as if you have been studying. Importantly for all of these are secondary additional effects to whatever the normal effect of you doing that test is. Magical law is, again, on a success you're 1 degree higher, but it has an extra bit that you can make this as a reaction skill roll against a spell being cast on you, at which point, if you're successful, you identify what the spell is and have advantage on any trait test to resist it. Medicine is with 5 minutes of studying. If it does not have degrees of success, it is an automatic success. If it does have tiered degrees of success, you make the roll, but if you fail it, you always get the minimum level of success. So this is intended like you're spending 5 minutes looking at an injury or a disease and working out what it does. And then technology is, if you succeed the roll by 5 or more, you gain sufficient insights into how the device works such that you could replicate and rebuild devices or components of similar function. Then you get Delver of Secrets, which is you targets of dictation and divination spells that have a trait test to resist it have disadvantage, and if you are a master in a skill, you can use intuition instead of the normal effect. I just need to check a thing a second. Just checking a thing. Okay, no, that's fine. Don't worry. I thought I might have doubled up on the rule, but I haven't. And then Cosmic Truth is you gain the Commune spell that you can cast once a day, and you get the Psychometry action, which basically lets you touch an object and make a test and potentially delve into the past of this item. And then there's the Life Domain, which is the last of the domains that we have finished. The spells for this one is Bless Cure, Assize, Lesser Restoration, Beacon of Hope, Revivify, Death Ward, Guardian of Faith, Greater Restoration, Mass Cure Wounds. Differences between this and the normal Life Domain are basically as seen in the first effect, a lot of the things where it goes, if it would help HP, it also now helps BP. So for D&D speak, that basically means if an ability in the domain of life would go, you get this bonus to restoring hit points. It also applies to spells that would apply temporary hit points. And importantly, one of the big things for life domain, because obviously life domain focuses a lot on improving the amount that you can heal. It's very easy for that to be wasted, at which point it kind of brings this subclass into a bit of an issue of, do you heal because you might waste some healing, at which point are you wasting a spell slot, are you wasting this, that, the other? So one thing we've done is, only for the life domain, if you would heal someone, and the amount of hit points you recover for the target would put them above their hit point maximum, you count up how many hit points above the hit point maximum they were, working out the difference, and then you give them that many barrier points. Now, like all things that do barrier points, if they've already got barrier points, they have to pick which one do they keep. But in effect, it's basically, okay, I'm healing you, cool, I've overhealed you, have a bit of shield against the next attack. And then they get Healing Spirit, which is very much based off, because the moment I started doing your healing becomes barrier, it then told me that this is very much like the Scholar of FF14, at which point I decided to give them effectively the Healing Fairy. So what this fairy does, very simple, it can do a very small ranged attack, or it can cast a healing word on a target. So, importantly, it has no limit to the amount of times it can happen. It's just this very constant passive 1d4 plus skill bonus healing. It doesn't go up, doesn't increase, but in theory that could, for some people, be the difference between life and death. One good deed is basically that heal someone else, heal yourself. Supreme Healing is a new ability, which is an improvement again. If a spell would recover HP or BP and doesn't add your intuition to the amount gained. Restoration spells that let you remove or reduce the degrees of a condition, let you pick an additional condition, and you can pick the same condition if it's degrees, so in theory you could remove 2 degrees of one condition. And then Greater Restoration, only for you, can move if performed during a short or long rest or a period of travel, can reduce a severe scar concept to a moderate scar concept, which is big because normally a severe scar concept will only decrease in severity. It will only disappear, after you have leveled up. So the ability of a life domain to be able to remove this scar is very useful. And then, like normal life domain, the capstone is you roll some dice. Instead of rolling dice for a healing spell, you just apply the maximum amount. So that's where we've got to so far. Those are the ones we have finished. What we have now is obviously half domain. We have remaining half, which, as I said, is about rests and downtime. Law, magic, moon, sea, storm, space, sun, time, travel, trickery, war, and wild. So what we're going to do today is briefly kind of come up with a rough plan for what we want these to do. And the other thing we're going to do is spend a bit of time on Soul Shaped, which is our version of the Sorcerer. Does anyone have any thoughts, questions, comments, ideas that they wish to add to the discussion? It is okay if not, just to make it abundantly clear. It's just give everyone a brief moment in case anyone has questions. Nope. Okay, cool. So, currently for Hearth, we have so the two things we have at low level are making the campfire more safe, allowing you to do more during a rest, then reducing the amount of time stuff takes during downtime, and potentially affecting any healing that occurs during downtime. Teleporting, the ability to teleport to your last campfire. So, what I'm also tempted for here is also is reducing the time required for a short rest. So instead of an hour, effectively everyone gets kind of the benefit in a shorter amount of time. I'm not sure what the capstone should be though. In theory, you could make it the shortened short rest is the capstone, but 14th level feels like a very late point for that kind of ability. Like, you want something powerful, but it's the agile problem. You want something powerful, but you don't want something where you're sat there going, is this really something I should have been waiting 14 levels to get my hands on? Assuming you start at level 1. Obviously, if you start high level, you'll get to these things a bit quicker. Unfortunately, I am still ill. So if I go quiet for a period of time, it is merely me coughing a lot. I might come back to Half. Half is one of those where I keep coming back to it and then suddenly come up with an idea. So if I come back to it, I might have an idea. Let's look at lore. So the thing about lore, like, spells are easy because it'll be things like Zone of Truth. Is Zone of Truth divination or dictation? That is a very good question. Same with Detect Thoughts. Give me a second, everyone. I'm just quickly doing a bit of research. Detect Thoughts. Which spell school are you? If Detect Thoughts is dictation, No, it's divination. Damn. We could give a bonus to divination and dictation spells. That would help. So I'm just quickly checking different spells. Um, yeah, so dictation and divination are kind of the spell zone that we want to be in. Yeah, because you also stuff like hold person, which would be really useful. Hold monster, yeah. So dictation and divination. So we want something to buff dictation, divination. We'll put it here for now and we'll work out where we put them in a bit. Sorry about that. One that came to mind, and it would be a first level ability. I'm gonna so I'll put it here for now. Is it's a little bit memey, as it kind of is leaning into the Judge Dredd meme, as it's you know, you have broken the law. Effectively, it's our ability to make use of the marked condition and letting you mark a target and then getting a bunch of bonuses against them as they have broken the law. What other effects could we give a lawkeeper? That's a thought. You could maybe uh, yeah, because traditionally Eternalist will not have access to attacks of opportunity. Which I'm going to check if I did a different thing. Did I give you? Um, So you can do attacks of opportunity, you can mark someone as a criminal. At some point we give you the ability to have a buff to your dictation and divination spells. Um, put it here because I'm not sure we want to make it a level 1 ability. What else do we want to do then for level 1 is the question. Because at that level I can do things like have just going, okay, you have disadvantage now. Thoughts. Um, Lord domain, Lord domain, Lord domain. Uh, let's give this one an investigation ability. Here's the thing, once I have something in place, I can start to mull it over. The key thing is having something in place to kind of go, okay, this is where we want to bounce off. So here we'll probably go combat effect. Combat effect of some sort. I don't want to give too many combat effects to every class because otherwise they have nothing to do outside of combat. But if we give them kind of, here is some combat utility. Okay. Maybe like the capstone, my thought just was like you deputize your allies. So it's like, okay, we're bringing this one person in. And so they can then key off their abilities for hitting a marked target off your marking. It might come back to it, might decide that's a terrible idea, but it just suddenly kind of was like, oh, that. We've not had a class whose design ethos has been around playing with the marked condition. That is not one that we've had, so actually that would be kind of cool. So this one's nice, easy. This one is First thing is giving access to the arcane spell list. I think that's the biggest one. So we want this to kind of be the lesser wizard domain. So one of the things we gave wizard, I don't think we want to give like design your own spell stuff. But what I do think we want to do is we want to a minor version of spell school specialization. Then we want 3 more effects. We want 3 more things to do with spells. Let's have breaking or cleansing spells. Let's have... What are things wizards are good at? Wizards are good at counterspell. That's like an entire chunk of their list. Wizards get spell schools. Wizards get... In doubt, let's revisit the Arcanist. We don't want to give them a spell book. So we give them minor version of the spell school system. I don't want to play with the foci system for this one. But we might do a polite nod. Oh god, no, cancel you. Let use a spellbook as a holy symbol, but you're not actually getting anything for the spellbook. It's more a decorative function. Study, improve signature foci. A lot of it was there. What if? Bugger me. One do is Moon Domain, which is about banishing, fighting evil things, banishing the darkness. I'm just looking at Half Domain, like how I come up with anything more for that yet. No, not yet. Moon. You know what? Before we do, let's leave Moon. Let's go to the go here. So, a cleric of the deep blue sea. To see to see what they could see. So let's give a nice breathe underwater, swim speed, and when do you get control water? Actually, we can safely, as long as it's 4th. So you will get that at 7th. Okay, so we could make the assumption that you will have control water because we can put it here in your domain spells. We can give you effectively control water. So we could assume you have it for your 3rd and your 4th tier abilities. Okay, so we're buffing water magic. Oh, this is gone, alright, but this is gone. Let's have a think. Let's have a think. So we are letting you. Just want to communicate with animals, channel light. Okay, yeah. I think this works. Because then I get to basically copy the thing for Storm. So, know what storm form would be, but we could do storm form. And then for this one, it would be you get that'd be cool. Space. Right. So for space, this is space, gravity, and the stars. What does that mean? I now ask myself, having come up with this wonderful idea. What does it mean, being a divine of space? Gravity. So we can mess with gravity, which means I can. Hmm. Hmm. That'd be cool. Giving you the ability at low level to like do the Mass Effect singularity thing. We go, that goes whoop, and everyone starts going around. Actually, I guess singularity will maybe be the 6th level ability. um, maybe lift. This is the problem. I have physics knowledge, which means I'm kind of sat there going, I have to be really careful with these because otherwise I'm going to upset myself. We have Mass Effect Singularity. We theoretically Mass Effect Lift. What are the other biotic abilities? Apparently, what messing with gravity is actually just your biotic. Biotics in Mass Effect. Please and thank you. That's what I want. So let's have a look. We had barrier. What's the lore behind barrier actually? Barrier use mass effect fields to protect the user from damage. Throw and warp would be cool. Stasis is time. Oh god. Push and pull could be useful. Push, pull, shockwave. Um, Maybe a buff to force damage spells, actually. Let's keep that one, because that's fucking with gravity. Fucking with gravity greater. Um, Because the thing with the mess with gravity, the reason I want to keep it separate, is this is very combat. This is very combat. But lifting, increasing and decreasing gravity could have a non-combat effect, which I will want to explore. Stone gravity. Because it's a black hole. Yeah, I probably want to avoid, because it did just occur to me the other way we could go with this is teleportation. But I actually want to keep teleportation out of this, and the reason is the nomad, which is traveling very similar grounds, also does timey-wimey space stuff, but its key focus is teleporting. So if we focus this on, like, you're fucking with gravity, you're fucking with the fundamentals of space, and then you have the other one that's kind of going, okay, this one's all about teleportation, travel. Maybe have something here for teleportation just so that the thread is being kept. But generally trying to keep that kind of... We could have it... Actually, no, we could do it in there. The sun. The sun, the sun, the sun, the sun, the sun, the sun, the sun. Um, since we're already talking about it, I should probably actually jump to time because we obviously got to have stasis somewhere. So where do we want stasis? I think stasis should go here. Again, is that just hold person? That might be just hold person. That's something to consider. Time. So we're messing with time. What is time? I'm just going to quickly look over again at, was there anything amazing? A lot of it was gravity. God, they threw so much random stuff into biotics towards the end of Mass Effect. I shouldn't say towards the end of Mass Effect, it still exists, but dear God, did they throw a lot of random stuff in towards as it went on. Yeah. But none of them really, except for Stasis, really time-based. They were more like, warp the fabric of space and reality. um, Time. There's an easy answer. The question is it a fun answer? Well, there are a few easy answers. The problem is most of them are spells, at which point we've already got that covered. That's what your domain spell list is for. I mean, the easy answer if we start messing with initiative. Is that a path we wish to tread? Do we seek to mess with initiative? One more time. One more time. Uh, I'll move that higher up, but one thought was perhaps if you are tied to a deity of time, you are more resistant to effects that would alter it. Let's jump back to sun. There is still the moon, but the sun is a bit easier because the sun we're focused on obviously the life aspect is covered by life domains, but we still have the sun, you know, warmth, the harvest, aspects like that. What does the sun do? I think, and I could get told off for doing this, but my current thought is why don't we make the sun the fire equivalent to storm and sea? Um, I think that might be one of the better ways to do it. Might be able to be split between the two. I'm not quite sure yet, but that's one thought is buff fire spells, then make radiant and fire swappable, and therefore making all radiant spells fire spells. Ba, 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 ba. Other effect, other effect, other effect. So here's the slight problem with the others. I can't go. Okay, so here we'll give resistance. Yeah. Big effect, and then an altered form. Problem here is this one gave us in the others you could breathe in the element and you could travel in the element. Well, there's a problem with that. I guess you could We can make it that you resist fire. Uh, maybe, that works. Then we have travel. Okay, this one's going to be another difficult one. The others is like here. I have made a system for. Here is an elemental tide domain. Cool. Follow this very simple set of rules, and you will be able to make a domain based off that thing. Travel. So we have buff to you as a person, your movement speed. Um, I think that works. Um, Trickery domain. Okay, so okay, let's get into the headspace of trickery. So what I actually mean is let's get into the headspace of Norse mythology. Let's get into the mind space of every myth of Loki is basically Loki changing shape, which I've basically distilled to you get disguised self, and we have effectively, and by letting you disguise other things, we also have that classic bit where oh god, I think it's also, yeah, it's Utgard Loki. Does the thing where like the world serpent is the cat, the old lady is death, and the jug of water was actually the world's oceans. Um, maybe um invisibility thing out of the Hobbit. My games design notes are now turning into pop culture references. Fantastic. Um, Smith, help me, please. Um, we might come back to this one. I might need to watch some OSP Smith videos, I think, to get me back into the headspace. Just watch a load of OSP videos and just go, okay, Norse myth. Where's trickery happen? Cool. Trickery domain sorted. Next is the God of War, not that one. Um, so one thing we have to be careful of is that the core class has the ability to be martial tagged and has the ability to take weapons and armor. So let's have a think. Let's have a think. Things we can do. It's really simple. It's not exciting, but I think it does the job. Just give a multi-attack at 6th level, which is roughly when everyone else will get it. It's one level after all of the not all of the normal martial characters would get it, which I think are one level late for multi-attack. I think we can all live with that. Oh, what about the rest of it? I don't want to give you smites because that will be just making it a paladin. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? So you're all about war, combat, fighting. I don't want to give you combat steps because that would just be way too much complication. We could give you a level 1, whatever Feck Fighter gets. But they don't get it at level 1, which would be problematic. Cool. Just reset some pages. Formatting. There we go. Yes, you get your combat step, but we don't want to give you combat step. Second wind. Could give you second wind. You've got healing. You don't really need it. Warrior's background. I'm not going to give you that. Days like this, it would be really nice actually if I did just make it. I could. It's days like this would be really easy just to go. Okay, yeah, actually, Wizards had a point with the 3rd level subclass thing, so I could go. Okay, yeah, I have insert ability here that warrior gets, but it's like, well, no, they don't get it till later. So giving it Cleric at first is just way too good. You could do that. Weapon focus. Hey! Oh, badly formatted because I've not sorted out the magic chapter yet. Oh, quickly, Google Drive, go to the magic chapter, chapter on magic. Class list. Could give them true strike. I might just give it part of their spell list anyway. It seems a bit silly actually though. Yeah, because Paladin's going to be in there. Paladin should really have access to True Strike. Um, hmm. No idea what to do for that capstone. And we'll jump to Wild. Wild will be nice and easy because we are once again going to reference an earlier piece of work. So what did I say for here? Grant access to the arcane. So what did we do? We did minor version of spells called specialization, break spells, uh, prepare cantrips, lesser version of school mastery. Okay. So for the wild domain, we are first of all, bam, giving you access to that beautiful, that lovely stuff. Uh, Something to do with animals and plants. Don't ask me what. Something to do with animals and plants. Yeah. I've not made the world shaper is the problem. I've not made the world shaper. Um. Shit. Oh. Not sure what to do with their capstone. Um. So yeah, that's it. We've basically plotted, charted our course through all the stuff. I mean, we still need to do all the moon. A few of these are going to need to act. Are probably not going to come out the way we planned them, but generally, oh, they are done. So next will be Soul Shaper. So I won't start the design process yet. For now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the plan is for Soul Shaper. So the Soul Shaped is the Soul Shaped is our version of Sorcerer. Instead of it being tied to bloodlines and ancestry, it's your soul whenever in the setting it enters your body. Before it entered your body, came into contact with something, or perhaps at the moment or just after, at some point when you were very young, your soul has been altered through coming into contact with the soul of or the power of an especially powerful entity. And it has altered the nature of your soul. And effectively, it is the soul no longer matches the physical body it was placed within. So the reason they're called soul-shaped is as they level, their body will change physically to better reflect the nature of the entity that exists within their physical form. So now I've got to mechanize that effect. But effectively, it's as you level, your body will change. So there's cleric had kind of this thing of it's largely your magic that shifts based on the eternal you're drawing your power from. Wizard, it's you're altering the very nature of the spells themselves. All their features are about here's how a spell normally works, you get to fuck with it. Cleric was about we are enhancing your spells. You'll notice a lot of these things, they never actually change what a spell does, they just give it more. Effectively, you have a battery that is called your god, and you're shoving it into your spell every time you cast it. Warrior is developing your art style, your form. You'd be able to perform more steps in the dance of combat. How effectively this is going to work is the core class is about messing with spells. That's what meta magic is. But the subclass will be entirely focused on this. Your body is changing and developing and growing into a better reflection of who your soul actually is. And so I've tried generally to keep. Sometimes the nomenclature has changed, but generally it's a similar thing. So instead of a fighter archetype, it is a warrior's fighting school. It's a school of combat. Bards still have colleges. Battle channelers still have paths. Eternalists still have domains. Arcanists still have schools of magic. The biggest deviator is going to be the soul shaped because it's not a sorcerous origin. It is your heart. In the setting, if your soul has been altered by a certain thing, you are referred to as that thing heart. So if you were a draconic sorcerer, you would have a draconic origin in 5e D&D. In this, you would be a dragon-hearted soul shape. If you are shaped by the raw chaotic power of raw magic, cosmic magic, which is effectively pure entropy and creation simultaneously, you would be a cosmic heart. If you were touched by a powerful fae, you would be a fae heart. If you are touched by the entity from the realm of death, you would be a dead heart, dream heart, masked heart, eternal heart, outsider's heart. Effectively, if there's a powerful supernatural entity, there is a heart. So it's going to most likely be like Bard and Battle Channeler, where not being one of the major cornerstones of the thing, you will not have as many subclasses. As we saw before, it was kind of fighters getting a lot to kind of cover the different weapon styles. Arcanist got a lot because there are lots of schools of magic. I think there's 10 or 12. And Eternalist gets a lot of domains, but that's to try and help cover the length and breadth of you are a deity of X. To be perfectly frank, I would never be able to get enough domains in to cover every deity. My hope is that by giving, I think I worked out to be about 20, so you basically get double the amount of subclasses everyone else gets. In that 20, there would hopefully be one that roughly thematically covers your thing. And I think I've covered the main ones, like, do you want to play Thor? Cool, you're a god of storm. Technically, thunder and lightning would go to storm, water, the sea, so your Poseidons, they get to go to sea domain. Ra gets to go to the sun domain. Osiris gets to go to death. Freya would go life. I'm basing it off real ones, because real ones are the ones that actually people would like pray to, funnily enough. So as I said, there's always room for more, and there are already some ideas I have, because what kind of fool would I be to not have ideas for the future? There's already one I'm working on for. There are basically 3 rule expansions I want. I'm in my head a modern day setting to go with a setting that I've been wanting to write for a while. A dragon wave where basically every class gets something dragon, because I like dragons. And something horror themed that we can work on around October time. So my current thought is, so there will be an undeath domain, there will be a dragon domain, and there will be a, I'm not quite sure what to call it yet, modern domain. But all the classes will be getting something like this. Some of them won't get stuff later because they're getting stuff now. Like, there's going to be a dragon heart, partly because it's the SRD sorcerer subclass. So that one will be coming very soon. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But the key thing is, I have a plan. So hopefully, next when we do a games design stream, what you will actually hear me say is, we have finished with the Eternal subclasses. The Eternalist is done, which means one of the biggest pillars is done. For the remainder of Pride Month, I'd like to work on the Soul Shaped. Once Pride Month is done, we'll probably put it on pause. Because what I really need to do, as we briefly saw with me touching on the Wild Domain and going shit, is what we really need to do is the remaining pillars of the game. So for those who don't quite, in your D&D style of game, there are 4 pillars. There is the fighter, who is this is the most not magical class in the game. They are the person with the sword. They're going to interact with the combat section. That's it. You then have wizard, cleric, and druid. And the reason they're all important is a barbarian is a fighter that is themed more towards nature. It's not the halfway point, because that is the ranger. But it's more, let's take fighter, but let's go with a non-magical nature bent. You've then got the halfway point between fighter and cleric, which is your paladin. You do have monk and you do have rogue. Monk is really, if barbarian is like the we're going to be martial but with a bit of a more primal bent, monk is the same thing but with a more spiritual bent. It's not a magic class, it's not the halfway point, but it's kind of the spiritually themed pure martial. And then you also have rogue. There is kind of the odd couple out. You've got sorcerer and you have warlock and you have bard, but they follow the rules that the wizard, the cleric, and the druid write. For this is how casters work. So what we've done is we've made the Arcanist. So we've made pillar number 1. We've made warrior. So we've got pillar number 2. We're adding a class in between warrior and Arcanist, which is the Law Master. So theoretically, I could start on the Law Master now, because I know what it's got a kind of reach between. We've now done the Eternalist, we're just doing its subclasses. So in theory, we could do the Paladin now. We've done the Battle Channeler, in which we have taken this martial that's normally nature-based, and we've kind of given it its own spin. So it's off in its own little corner alongside the Bard. They don't really care how the other classes are playing. They're now getting to stay in their own thing. And the same will be true for Monk and Rogue. When we get to them, they'll get to do their own thing. I want to do and prioritise, once Pride Month is over, getting the World Shaper done. Because it's the final of the big 3 casters. We'll then have Cosmic, Eternal, Primordial, Set in Stone. All of the halfway casters can then be made. That's a lie, actually. I need to finish that bit. Nearly all the halfway casters can then be done. But the important thing is, of the big 3 that everyone else kind of orbits and orientates himself around are done. Then there is also the added pillar that I've made. It kind of was its own child. I've now made it a pillar, which is the Warlock. We got to get the Warlock done. I'm putting it slightly below Druid, but they are pretty equal, so I could easily go either way. And the reason is there's another half caster I want to put between Warlock and Fighter, called the Slayer. And with that, I think we'll have most of the class design rounded out. So effectively, you'll have fighter kind of in the middle of this Venn diagram. You'll have the four pillars around it, which is our warlock, our wizard, our cleric, and our druid. In between where the crossover is, you'll have lore master between fighter, wizard, ranger between fighter, druid, slayer between fighter, warlock, and paladin between fighter, cleric. And then dancing around them are the other characters. You have bard, you have sorcerer, and you have and barbarian. I said, luckily, we've already done some of them already. Bard, barbarian, they're done. So we're getting through this quite well. I mean, theoretically, we could make a really decent party with what we've got done. You would have fighter as your midfielder. Sorry, warrior as your midfielder. Battle channeler as your up-close personal tank. You could have bard wherever you need them to be. You have arcanist, you have eternalist. So you could easily do pure caster, pure damage, pure healer, pure control. I'm very happy with what we have gotten done so far. It doesn't seem like a lot because what is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 classes out of a total of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 classes. But I'm pretty happy with where they are. Like, we're not halfway yet, but I mean, if we get World Speaker, if we could get World Speaker, Soul Shaped, and Pack Bound done, we'd be over halfway there. And I think we'd be able to get a very good idea where the game stands. Because at that point, you've kind of got, well, here are most of your casters. Are they distinct in what they do, in how they play? Here is the fighter. Does the fighter keep up with the spellcasters? Does the battle channeler keep up with the spellcasters? Bard would have the fun extra bit of, does it keep up both as a spellcaster and when it's not a spellcaster? It then will just turn into, okay, let's make the half casters feel valid. I mean, what we're probably going to end up doing is we'll focus on getting the casters done, the pure casters done, which also means we'll need to work on the Scion. And then once you've got Pack-Bound, Scion, Soul-Shaped, World Speaker, that's all the pure casters. Pure casters are done. Don't have to worry about that then. What we might pivot to is the martial artist and specialist, because once both of them are done, you've also got rid of all of the marshals. At that point, the only classes remaining are these kind of in the middle, which will have their own design ethos. So yeah, that is the future. The inventor requires me to sit down and do the crafting system, which at some point we will do, but not today. So I hope that was helpful. We have been going now for 2 hours. That is 2 hours more than I have talked for countless days, because I'm still ill. So woo, we're doing it, folks. We're lasting a bit longer. I hope this was interesting, and I hope this wasn't completely boring. So let's go with Red Cookie Bed. So, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for turning up. I don't know when we'll be streaming next, but yes, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. We will see you